I just read this question, a terrifying hypothetical. You wake up tomorrow and the internet has been permanently deleted. What's the very first thing you do? Well, I have to tell you, for me, this isn't a hypothetical. I know what the first thing I would do is. I'd check the hidden safe behind the drywall in my closet. Why? Because the internet being gone isn't the real crisis. The real crisis is that I have a ledger in that safe. A digital proof ledger. And if the internet is gone, it means they couldn't access it. It means I can't access it. It's the only copy left, the physical copy. And if they know I have it, they're already coming for me. Stop. You need to tell me right now, before this gets intense, before I break down. What would you do? Comment below. Is this even legal? What's your take on a world with no digital footprint? Guess I better get myself a physical encyclopedia to look up random stuff. Growing up, my mom splurged on a set of the World Book Encyclopedia. I believe there were about 30 books, and I spent hours and hours flipping through over my childhood. I learned a lot about the human body because the H book had transparent plastic pages under human with layers of the body. That's the only pure thing I can cling to right now. The memory of physical knowledge. My stomach is twisting. My hands are shaking. The ledger, I shouldn't have kept it. But I had to have leverage. Proof. The internet's permanent deletion. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a mistake. It was targeted. A surgical strike. You think of the loss. No social media, no search engines, no streaming. That's small change. I'm thinking about the infrastructure, the financial systems, the entire power grid, the military communications, the silence. It would be a catastrophic, chilling silence. Not just the digital kind. The immediate fallout? Pure, unadulterated panic. The cash machines stop. They don't just stop dispensing. They cease to exist as a concept. Your digital wallet? A ghost? Your identity? Fragmented. The whole world suddenly reverts to paper, to voice, to face-to-face transactions. But the ledger isn't about money. It's about names. It's about a program. A deep, dark protocol that was only supposed to exist in the shadow corners of the dark web. And now, the servers are dust. The backups are ashes. The paper in my safe? It just became the most dangerous document on Earth. I pull out the safe. The old combination lock. Click. 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 The steel door groans open. I reach in. My hand is slick with sweat. I can hear the air outside. That unnatural stillness. No electronic hum. No distant sirens from connected cars. Just analog. I pull out the book. It's thin, bound in black leather. Not even a name on the spine. I open it. Handwritten, cryptic codes, locations, and a date. A date that's tomorrow. They knew this was coming. They weren't deleting the internet to protect us. They were deleting it to prepare us. I ask again. You wake up tomorrow and the internet has been permanently deleted. What's the very first thing you do? Is it survival? Or is it something much, much worse? Because if the internet is gone, how do we know who is actually running the world? And if every digital defense mechanism is offline, what exactly is going to happen when the next thing they planned for is activated? And why did the names in the ledger suddenly glow a faint, unsettling blue? The glow wasn't an illusion. It was a soft, cold luminescence, like a chemical reaction in the ink itself, illuminating only the names of the people on the list. The blue light wasn't just strange, it was terrifyingly specific, highlighting 3 names in particular: Elias Thorne, Clara Volkoff, and a code name, The Architect, written in a different hand at the bottom of the page. Thorne was the lead programmer on the project, Volkoff, the financier. The Architect was the ghost, the one who pulled the strings, and the one whose identity was the whole point of my digital leverage. If the names glowed, it meant this book wasn't just paper and ink. It was somehow reacting to the permanent deletion, as if the digital death of the internet had triggered a physical counter-response built into the ledger itself. I slammed the book shut, my heart hammering against my ribs, convinced the light would pierce the drywall and draw attention. The unnatural silence outside was the first wave of panic. This glowing blue was the second, deeply personal one. The date on the page was tomorrow, noon. The coordinates listed below Thorne's name were for a remote, decommissioned naval base miles north of the city, a place supposedly abandoned for 2 decades. I had to assume that the activation they planned was set to happen there. The fact that the internet was gone meant my contact, the only person I trusted inside the organization, was unreachable, probably just another panicked face in the sudden analog world. I had to go to the naval base. The drive would take hours, and without GPS or any digital navigation, I'd have to rely on an old, forgotten road map I kept in the glove compartment, a heavy, dusty relic from the 90s. I grabbed my car keys, stuffing the black leather ledger into a worn backpack along with a flashlight, a box of protein bars, and a half-full water bottle. As I reached the front door, a heavy rhythmic knocking echoed through the house, too precise, too deliberate for a neighbor or a panicked citizen. It wasn't a frantic alarm. It was a calm, calculated summons. I froze, my hand hovering over the deadbolt. They were already here. They were here far too soon, and their being here meant they either had a backup plan for finding the ledger, or they knew I had it before the internet even went dark. I ducked into the kitchen, grabbing a long, heavy kitchen knife for protection. A world without digital defense is a world where only the physically prepared survive. The knocking stopped, replaced by the grating sound of a lockpick being inserted into the front door. Not a kick or a smash, but a quiet, professional invasion. I realized with a sickening jolt that if they could still operate this efficiently without the internet, then the program detailed in the ledger was far more powerful than I ever imagined, an analog network running parallel to the digital one. I looked down at the knife, a paltry defense against a silent, highly organized threat. The final click of the lockpick echoed, and the front door started to open inward, slowly and menacingly. I bolted for the back door, adrenaline masking my fear, knowing that the only way to survive was to not just run, but to understand what that blue glow meant before it was too late. I burst out the back door and sprinted into the dense woods behind my property, ignoring the scraping branches and the uneven, root-filled ground, the sound of my own ragged breathing drowning out any noise from the house. I kept the black ledger pressed tight against my chest in the backpack. I couldn't risk the main roads. They would be too chaotic, or worse, already patrolled. I had to trust the paper map in my glove box, which meant circling back only when I was far enough away to safely retrieve the car and attempt the impossible drive to the decommissioned base. After what felt like an hour, I stopped at a rocky outcrop, finally able to breathe and look at the map. I pulled the black ledger out for a moment, the names still faintly blue, and flipped to the back pages, where I saw a series of complex diagrams I had never bothered to decipher when I had the luxury of a digital world. The diagrams showed a kind of energy transfer, a low-frequency broadcast system that didn't rely on cell towers or satellites, a relic from the Cold War era that had been secretly repurposed. I realized the glow wasn't a warning, it was a connection. Twist 1. The deleted internet was not the main event. It was a massive global energy spike designed to power up this old-world broadcast system, activating the names on the ledger, not physically, but as key operators or nodes in the new network. The glow was the names absorbing the residual energy. The network was now human-powered. Thorne, Volkov, and the architect weren't just programmers, they were the new central servers. I saw a small, hand-drawn symbol next to the coordinates for the naval base, a circular motif with a single vertical line. And then I realized I had seen that exact symbol once before, on the worn-out cover of my mom's old physical encyclopedia. I remembered the joy of that book, the transparent pages of the human body. The diagram showed that the Cold War broadcast system required not just names, but a complex non-digital data input, a pure form of knowledge that could only be stored on physical media. Twist 2. The activation protocol wasn't some high-tech code. It was the contents of the last pure non-digital information repositories. The only way to stop the human-powered network from going live was to destroy the physical knowledge they needed to input. My mother's encyclopedia, the one she paid $800 for in the 80s, the one with the transparent layers of the human body, wasn't just a memory. It was the key to their entire operating system. They weren't coming for the ledger. They were coming for me because they knew I was connected to the pure knowledge, the physical book they needed. The glowing names were the first phase of the network connecting. The second phase was the input of the encyclopedia's data into the system at the naval base by noon tomorrow. I had to get back to my car, get back to my house, and grab that heavy, dusty set of the World Book Encyclopedia, before the silent, methodical pursuers from my home connected the dots and got there first. The real danger wasn't the darkness of a digital blackout. It was the light of pure physical knowledge being used to power a hidden agenda. The journey back through the woods felt longer and infinitely more terrifying, every snap of a twig sounding like a gunshot. I retrieved my car, and the lack of digital interference on the drive was almost meditative. No pings, no map directions screaming at me, just the pure focus on the road and the memory of old landmarks. I got back to the house to find the front door wide open and the safe door hanging ajar, but nothing else touched. They hadn't wanted the contents of the safe yet. They were waiting for the ledger to fully activate the rest of the network nodes. I scrambled up to the dusty attic, where the heavy multi-volume set of the World Book Encyclopedia had been stored for decades. I pulled down the H volume first, the one with the transparent pages of the human body, the one I had pored over as a child. It felt impossibly heavy in my hands, no longer just a book, but a weapon. A pure, untainted data core. I realized the profound irony. The very thing I clung to as a symbol of pure knowledge was the fuel for their terrifying new world order. The memory of my mother's splurge, the joy of learning, was now a critical vulnerability. It was a race against time, me and this 25-pound set of books versus an analog network of human servers powered by a global energy spike. I drove toward the naval base, the sun just starting to crest the horizon, the silence of the world a heavy, suffocating blanket. I made it to the derelict base with an hour to spare. The coordinates led me to a massive circular radio dish hidden in a subterranean bunker, and in the center were Thorn and Volkov, their faces illuminated by the blue light of the equipment. They were frantically trying to input data, flipping through what I instantly recognized as another complete but slightly older set of the World Book Encyclopedia, a last-ditch effort. I didn't hesitate. I threw the H volume I carried directly into the main console, and the resulting electrical surge was deafening. Sparks rained down, the blue light died instantly, and the two operators crumpled to the ground, unconscious, their connection severed. The network was down. The architect's master plan had failed, not because of a firewall or a code breaker, but because of a physical book. I stood there, covered in soot, watching the final wisps of smoke curl up from the ruined console. The internet was still gone, but the immediate crisis, the dark, human-powered network, was neutralized. The world was still without its digital safety net, reverted to an analog existence, but at least the structure that would have controlled every aspect of that new world was now dust. I walked out of the bunker, carrying the black ledger, now just a book, and the remaining volumes of the encyclopedia. I realized the true value of physical things, of untainted, non-digital knowledge. I still had the names, the proof, and now I had a choice: to expose the truth in a world with no news outlets or to simply burn the ledger and move on. The permanent deletion of the internet was the ultimate reset button, and I was the one who was left holding the manual. What do you think in this new world of silence should I do with the final copy of the truth? Should I let the secret die with the internet, or try to rebuild the trust?